Sahih al-Bukhari 2331. Narrated Ibn Umar.
Allah's Messenger gave the land of Khaybar to the Jews on the condition that they work on it and cultivate it, and be given half of its yield.
Sahih al-Bukhari 2332. Narrated Rafi. We worked on farms more than anybody else in Medina. We used to rent the land and say to the owner, the yield of this portion is for us and the yield of that portion is for you, as the rent. One of those portions might yield something and the other might not. So, the Prophet forbade us to do so. Sahih al-Bukhari 2333. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet said, while three men were walking, it started raining and they took shelter, refuge, in a cave in a mountain. A big rock rolled down from the mountain and closed the mouth of the cave. They said to each other, think of good deeds which you did for Allah's sake only, and invoke Allah by giving reference to those deeds so that He may remove this rock from you. One of them said, O Allah! I had old parents and small children and I used to graze the sheep for them. On my return to them in the evening, I used to milk the sheep and start providing my parents first of all before my children. One day I was delayed and came late at night and found my parents sleeping. I milked the sheep, as usual, and stood by their heads. I hated to wake them up and disliked to give milk to my children before them, although my children were weeping, because of hunger, at my feet till the day dawned. O Allah! If I did this for your sake only, kindly remove the rock so that we could see the sky through it. So, Allah removed the rock a little and they saw the sky. The second man said, O Allah! I was in love with a cousin of mine like the deepest love a man may have for a woman. I wanted to outrage her chastity but she refused unless I gave her 100 dinars. So, I struggled to collect that amount. And when I sat between her legs, she said, O Allah's slave! Be afraid of Allah and do not deflower me except rightfully, by marriage. So, I got up. O Allah! If I did it for your sake only, please remove the rock. The rock shifted a little more. Then the third man said, O Allah! I employed a laborer for a farak of rice and when he finished his job and demanded his right, I presented it to him, but he refused to take it. So, I sowed the rice many times till I gathered cows and their shepherd, from the yield. Then after some time, he came and said to me, Fear Allah, and give me my right. I said, Go, and take those cows and the shepherd. He said, Be afraid of Allah. Don't mock at me. I said, I am not mocking at you. Take all that. So, he took all that. O Allah! If I did that for your sake only, please remove the rest of the rock. So, Allah removed the rock. Sahih al-Bukhari 2334. Narrated Zayd bin Aslam from his father. Umar said, But for the future Muslim generations, I would have distributed the land of the villages I conquer among the soldiers as the Prophet distributed the land of Khaybar. Sahih al-Bukhari 2335. Narrated Aisha. The Prophet said, He who cultivates land that does not belong to anybody is more rightful to own it. Urwa said, Umar gave the same verdict in his caliphate. Sahih al-Bukhari 2336. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. While the Prophet was passing the night at his place of rest in Dhul Hulayfa in the bottom of the valley of Akik, he saw a dream and it was said to him, You are in a blessed valley. Musa said, Salim let our camels kneel at the place where Abdullah used to make his camel kneel, seeking the place where Allah's Messenger used to take a rest, which is situated below the mosque which is in the bottom of the valley. It is midway between the mosque and the road. Sahih al-Bukhari 2337. Narrated Umar. While the Prophet was in al-Dashakik he said, Someone, meaning Gabriel, came to me from my Lord tonight, in my dream, and said, Offer the prayer in this blessed valley and say, I intend to perform Umrah along with Hajj, together, but. Sahih al-Bukhari 2338. Narrated Ibn Umar. Umar expelled the Jews and the Christians from Hijaz. When Allah's Messenger had conquered Khaybar, he wanted to expel the Jews from it as its land became the property of Allah, His Apostle, and the Muslims.
Allah's messenger intended to expel the Jews, but they requested him to let them stay there on the condition that they would do the labor and get half of the fruits.
Allah's messenger told them, "We will let you stay on this condition, as long as we wish."
So, they, i.e. Jews, kept on living there until Umar forced them to go towards Tama and Ariha.
Sahih al-Bukhari 2339. Narrated Rafi bin Khadij.
My uncle Zuhair said, Allah's messenger forbade us to do a thing which was a source of help to us.
I said, whatever Allah's messenger said was right. He said, Allah's messenger sent for me and asked, "What are you doing with your farms?"
I replied, "We give our farms on rent on the basis that we get the yield produced at the banks of the water streams, rivers, for the rent, or rent it for some wasks of barley and dates." Allah's messenger said, "Do not do so, but cultivate the land yourselves, or let it be cultivated by others gratis, or keep it uncultivated."
I said, "We hear and obey." Sahih al-Bukhari 2340-2341. Narrated Jabir.
The people used to rent their land for cultivation for 1/3, 1/4, or half its yield. The Prophet said, whoever has land should cultivate it himself or give it to his Muslim brother gratis, otherwise keep it uncultivated. Narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's messenger said, whoever has land should cultivate it himself or give it to his Muslim brother gratis, otherwise he should keep it uncultivated.